being interested in working to gain fluency in Spanish, and starting an immersion program in Tijuana. And that's just kind of been my passion. I've been living in Tijuana since January of 2016, so coming up on 3 years now. And it was never that way. I never thought I'd ever be living in Tijuana, but it's really cool. And when I mention it to San Diegans, typically one of the first things that I hear is, wait a second, you live in Tijuana? Like, I guess I don't look like the type of guy that in their mind that would live in Tijuana. I don't know, maybe they have something to say about that. But I do, and I've loved it. I've always wanted to gain fluency in Spanish and just learn about the Mexican culture, especially being here in San Diego, having been home for the last 10 years. But in general, when people ask me, well, how is it? I tell them it is curada. So who knows what curada means?
It's like awesome, really cool.
Yeah, it's basically like cool. It's like cool. So for those who know what curada means, who knows other words for curada?
Padre.
Say padre, yeah, say padre. What else? Suave, literally like smooth, like suave. There's more literal translations for it. My wife here, Yasmin, she's from Guadalajara, Mexico. And pues, ¿qué decimos en Guadalajara?
Chido.
Chido.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone ever been to Mexicali? Mexicali? Better pronounce it right. Mexicali, Mexicali. Do you guys know what they say there?
Yeah.
Mexicali?
Oh, well, how they pronounce it is CH, not SH, not CH. So Shilo. Which I never heard that it was with the SH. That sounds like an English way of saying it. But again, I mean, that's a border town too. So I'm here to talk about Tijuana. You guys are in the class about Tijuana. But something fascinating about Mexicali. Mexicali has the most Chinese immigrants of anywhere in all of Mexico. And my wife and I, we had done a tour with a group called Turista Libre. Which, has anyone ever heard of Turista Libre? It's run by a guy named Derek Cheney. He does great tours of Tijuana. I strongly suggest any gringo who's interested in knowing a little bit about Tijuana do any of the tours. With him, it's all led in English, and you meet on the U.S. side of the border. He takes you across, and you do all sorts of different activities where you go see a lucha libre wrestling match, or go see a pro baseball game, or go do a beer tour, or a food tour, or tour of like the border wall, all sorts of stuff. But it does an annual Chinese New Year in Mexicali, and we went. And we learned that around the year 1940, if I recall it right, there were, the town's population, there were 700 Mexicans living in Mexicali, but there were 10,000 Chinese living in Mexicali. So 700 Mexicans in Mexico to these 10,000 Chinese over there, and they were there to help build with the railroads. And that there were 2 movie theaters in Mexicali at that time, and they showed exclusively Chinese pictures. So anyway, we're here talking about Tijuana, right? This is the Tijuana class. Okay, all right, enough about Mexicali. So I say curada is how I basically would describe living in Tijuana. Again, I did not grow up learning Spanish. The very first Mexican I ever met was around the time of being 18 when I left my small town of Pennsylvania to go to university. And it was here at my university in Pennsylvania, Westchester University, where I took 2 years of Spanish. And just little things, I just learned little things here and there. Didn't really use it a whole bunch, but I began interest when it was during one of those years that I went to visit Ecuador, where my sister was staying as a foreign exchange student. I was able to remember some of the stuff I was learning in class. We go to Ecuador, and my sister had attended an all-girls high school. That was like in the beginning of college, so not big of an age difference here. My wife doesn't really love to hear this story, so I won't get into the big details. But I was very inspired going to my sister's all-girl high school in Ecuador, and I found that I really liked something about the culture, and I was interested in knowing a bit more. It was the very first time I ever had an introduction into the Latin world, so that was back in 2002. It was just a couple of years later after graduating from Westchester University, Pennsylvania, that I chose to move to beautiful San Diego, California,
and grew up skateboarding, so I know I want to live in Southern California. It's between there and LA. One of the things that made me interested in living in San Diego was that I looked at it on a map, and Mexico was like right there. And I thought, oh, geez, that could be kind of cool, potentially. Another foreign country just right there. So within my third week of moving out here, back in 2006, I, for my first time, went to Tijuana, and I went on a missions trip to build homes on the outskirts of Tijuana. And I just thought it was so cool. I'd be living where I was living in PB, hop in a car, and less than an hour later, we're on the outskirts of Tijuana building homes like this. And I just thought it was such a different world. But then I got confused because the house next to me, the kid in that house was playing Metallica on the radio. And my gringo-fied mind was thinking, I'm in Mexico. Like, why isn't this guy listening to Mexican music? It escaped me the fact that somebody could be listening to like American music in another country. This just shows you like how closeted in a way that I was. But began with these projects, and it was a great way to begin to get to know Tijuana. Then helped out with an orphanage building project called Niños de la Promesa in downtown. The Tijuana, there's a lot of opportunities for improvement in the city, whether it's helping out with orphanages or home building projects. There's opportunities to be involved. There's a lot of different churches and San Diego-based organizations that go down there to help out. A couple years later, I came across this bike riding group. For anybody cycle here, even just like commuter, 0 hands. I don't feel like I'm in San Diego anymore. Jeez. Well, if anybody decides to pick up a bike one day and wants to go down to Tijuana, there's this awesome group that once a month here from San Diego, they'll meet downtown, ride down to Tijuana, and then they meet with all the Mexicans who were there at the Archway, and for 2 hours they'll ride around the city. And that was just a really cool experience. You get to see the city, it's at night, it's exciting, and just in this place that it's really, well, just foreign, frankly, to me. So little bit by little bit, I'm getting to know more about Tijuana. Who can tell me the proper name for this animal here? Tijuana proper name.
Zonkey.
The zonkey with a Z. It's a cross between a zebra and a donkey. So it is a donkey, just to clarify it for anybody who's possibly questioning. It's not an actual zebra, but it is a zonkey. And the semi-pro basketball team of Tijuana, so there you go. If you didn't know that, Tijuana has a semi-pro basketball team called the Zonkeys. And that's actually not me, but I've walked past these Zonkeys many times. They're very famous in Tijuana. I've also done this from time to time, a time or two. I'm not any one of those people in particular, but I may have possibly been there once or twice. I wasn't there with any of the women. It was just me and friends. Male promise. Okay? Okay. ¿Me entendiste? Okay. But my first real immersion experience in Mexico, that I consider my first real immersion experience, was Guadalajara. Anybody ever been to Guadalajara? Know Guadalajara? Wow, okay, so a few people. Second largest city in Mexico. I had an opportunity in 2014 to volunteer at a Bible camp there. And I got there, and I thought, I totally got this. Because, again, I had 2 years of Spanish in undergrad in Pennsylvania with all my other gringo classmates, and we listened to the audio, and it was like Donde está el baño? And we all know that's how Mexicans really speak like that, right? It's like Donde está el baño? It's all of that. So I was like, I'm fine. I was not. I got there that first night. I was not this black man crying, but I was me crying, and I was like, what am I doing here? I understand nothing of this. I bought a one-way ticket. Why? But it was in that experience of, because I wasn't around anyone else who spoke English. So there was a lot to learn. And I had a really great time. With just some friends here, we'd go hiking. I helped build a hiking trail. And they even taught me how to do un grito. El grita?
El grito.
El grito. El grito. It's a payaso in the street for my buddy's birthday.
Can we hear that?
Dude, no, I haven't done it since that photo was taken like 4 years ago. So, Maybe next semester. I'll practice that. I'll remember if a student wants to hear it. I'll have it ready for next semester. So I spent 5 months here, and at the end of it, I grasped a beginner's to intermediate conversational level of Spanish. And it felt incredible. I felt like this, to be able to just think and speak functionally in beginner Spanish. And thankfully people saw me and they were like, oh, he's like gringo, like we're lucky if he speaks any Spanish whatsoever. And so it felt great. So the time came for me to move back to San Diego, and I did not want to move back to like PB or OB. I did not want to lose that Spanish that I was learning. So I chose to move somewhere in San Diego where I was convinced I'm going to have neighbors who are Mexican that I can speak Spanish with. Anyone want to take a guess?
San Isidro?
San Isidro. That's a great guess?
National City.
That's a great guess too. There's probably a lot of great guesses. Let's go to the next slide here. Barrio Logan, that would have been great too. I chose City Heights. Well, I lived in North Park for 5 years before that, and I really like North Park. And I did not want to go far from North Park, so City Heights was a good choice. There was a lot of opportunity for me to get involved. And I was right. I had a lot of Mexican neighbors. I had a lot of Mexican neighbors and a lot of Chicano neighbors. And I learned that Chicanos do not care to practice Spanish with me. They're like, dude, I speak English. What are you doing? And I'd say, all right, like, well, where are your parents? Like, they'll speak Spanish with me, and they'll probably even feed me tacos. So, like, let's go and do that. And so it was during this time. This is by now, 2015. I was on a roll. I was like, I gotta learn Spanish. I put in too much hard work, and I kind of knew a bit about Tijuana. I got familiar with riding my bike around stuff. So on my days off, I would just hop on the trolley and ride my bike around Tijuana. And my friends are like, "What are you doing on your days off?" And I don't even think I told my parents this, because they're back in Pennsylvania, and they're like in their 60s and 70s. And the only time they ever hear of Tijuana, Mexico is on the international nightly news. And they don't want to talk about the cool food scene there or Fight Guadalupe or anything about that. It's for less favorable stuff. I didn't care how my parents worried about it. But I'm riding around the city, and I'm loving it. And I came across a book called Tijuana 2200, which is after the city's primary zip code. This book is phenomenal. It's written in both English and Spanish. It's kind of like a hipster book, great photos, just talking about like the cool local stuff to do in Tijuana. So for our clients, and I'll get into a bit more of what my wife and I are doing right now with what is called Immersion Living Tijuana. Bought a whole bunch of these for our clients, because this is just one of the best ways to get to know the city and learn Spanish in just the vibe and familiarity of everything from the city. One of the things that obviously helped me learn so much about the culture and the language was falling in love with a local, my wife. Pues, ¿qué porcentaje de inglés hablamos juntos?
Nada.
Yes, casi nada. Entonces,
Solo español.
Yeah, tenía que aprender español por conocerla mejor. Entonces, if you really want to learn a language and know a culture, follow the local. It's just the best way of doing it. So, I spent about a year doing this, and in visiting Tijuana, I would meet other gringos from time to time. And then I hopped on Craigslist, and I just started looking at apartment prices, and I was like, I'm moving to Tijuana. This is totally for me. And